artillery has a wide variety of weapons available for use in various situations. There are heavy and medium weapons for delivering fire on such targets as enemy supply lines or installations, troop concentrations, enemy batteries, or fortifications. The weapons to be used in any given situation will be determined by the nature and location of the target. Also, there are light artillery weapons. Finally, there are certain weapons which, though not technically artillery, may be used by the artillery. The 3.5-inch rocket launcher, for instance, is used for the close-in support of artillery positions. This weapon is served by a two-man crew. It fires an 8.5-pound rocket carrying a shaped charge. This charge is capable of penetrating 11 inches of armor plate, which makes the weapon highly effective against tanks. Its maximum effective range is about 200 to 300 yards. The absence of recoil is due to the fact that the breech end of the weapon remains open, but this also creates a cone-shaped danger area extending about 75 feet out to the rear. The quadruple 50 caliber machine gun, motor carriage M16, is designed primarily for fire against low-flying aircraft. However, it can also be used effectively against ground targets. The M16 is a very flexible weapon. It has 90 degrees of elevation and 360 degrees of traverse. Both traverse and elevation are controlled electrically. There are 8 M16s in each self-propelled automatic weapons battery. There are 4 firing batteries in each battalion. This weapon has a rate of fire of 500 rounds per gun per minute. Its maximum effective range is 700 yards. The twin 40mm gun motor carriage M19 is a companion piece to the M16. It too was designed for use against aircraft, but at intermediate ranges. However, like the M16, the M19 may also be used effectively against ground targets. Its traverse is also 360 degrees, but its elevation is only 87 degrees. Both may be controlled either electrically or manually. The twin 40 has a high rate of fire, being capable of firing 120 rounds per gun per minute. The 4.5-inch multiple rocket launcher was designed to supplement light artillery and heavy mortars. Its chief advantage is its tremendous firepower. However, due to its wide dispersion, this rocket launcher is used primarily as an area weapon. Those weapons which are of chief concern to the artilleryman in the fulfillment of his principal missions are the standard artillery pieces. The smallest of these is the 155mm Pack Howitzer. This weapon was originally designed so it could be transported by pack animal in mountainous or other difficult terrain. It is still the standard weapon of the pack artillery. In special operations, pack animal remains the surest method of transporting firepower to otherwise inaccessible locations. There are 4 pack howitzers per firing battery, and each is served by a crew of 7 men. The weapon fires a high explosive shell weighing 15 pounds to a maximum range of 9,600 yards. The effective bursting radius of the shell is approximately 15 yards. The pack howitzer is also designed for use by airborne troops. It can be dropped by parachute, complete in 1 load, or broken down into 7 paracrate loads. It can also be towed by jeep or any other available vehicle. The standard light artillery piece of the infantry division is the 155mm howitzer. This howitzer, weighing about 5,000 pounds, is towed either by a 2.5-ton 6x6 truck or by an M5 tractor. The gun crew consists of 10 men, including the driver of the prime mover. There are 6 105 howitzers per battery, 3 firing batteries per battalion, and 3 battalions organic to each infantry division. The 105 howitzer can be emplaced in firing position in about 3 minutes. It is a very flexible weapon with a maximum elevation of 65 degrees and a total traverse of 45 degrees. It can be loaded and fired at all elevations. It fires a 33-pound semi-fixed round to a maximum range of about 12,200 yards. Various fuses are available to produce different types of burst. Fuse quick will cause the high explosive shell to burst on impact with an effective bursting radius of approximately 25 yards. Fuse delay is used to obtain penetration, mine action, or ricochet fire. Air bursts, which are particularly effective against personnel or unarmored vehicles, can be obtained from either time or VT fuses. VT fuses have the advantage of causing a burst over the target at a height predetermined to produce the maximum destructive effect. For use against armored vehicles, the 105 howitzer fires a high explosive anti-tank round carrying a shaped charge. For screening purposes or for producing casualties, there is a white phosphorus shell. By the use of time fuses set to burst at different intervals, it is possible to trace the trajectory which a shell will follow on its way to the target. For use with an armored division, the 105 howitzer has been mounted on a light tank chassis to become the motor carriage M37. This weapon is manned by a crew of 7 and can be emplaced in approximately 1 minute. It fires the same ammunition as the towed 105 howitzer and has identical ballistic characteristics. The standard medium artillery piece of the infantry division is the 155mm howitzer. This weapon also constitutes the bulk of corps artillery. There are 6 howitzers per battery, 3 firing batteries per battalion, and 1 battalion organic to each infantry division. The 155 howitzer weighs 12,700 pounds and is towed either by an M5 tractor or by a 4-ton 6x6 truck. This weapon can be emplaced in about 5 minutes. It requires a crew of 12 men. The 155 howitzer fires separate loading ammunition with 2 types of propelling charge, green bag for shorter ranges and white bag for longer ranges. The projectile itself weighs approximately 95 pounds. This howitzer has a maximum elevation of 65 degrees and a total traverse of 48 degrees. Its range is 16,500 yards. The effective bursting radius of its high explosive shell is about 30 yards. The weapon also fires chemical shells, such as white phosphorus or smoke. In addition, it fires an illuminating shell to provide battlefield illumination at night. The M41 is the self-propelled 155mm howitzer, which serves as the medium artillery weapon of the armored division. It has a maximum elevation of 45 degrees and a total traverse of 37 degrees. It can be elevated or depressed, either manually or by means of a power system. Like the 105 howitzer, this weapon is mounted on a light tank chassis. It can be emplaced in firing position in about 1 minute. The crew consists of 12 men, including 2 drivers. The ammunition is the same as that fired by the towed weapon. While the 155 howitzer was intended primarily for use against emplaced batteries or other suitable ground targets, it is also very effective in direct fire. Its high explosive shell has a tremendous concussion effect. white phosphorus can be used to set a vehicle on fire. The 155mm gun is normally employed as corps or army artillery. There are 4 guns per battery and 3 firing batteries per battalion. This gun weighs about 30,000 pounds and is usually towed by an M4 tractor. The 155 gun requires from 1/2 hour to 6 hours to emplace, depending on the type and condition of the terrain. It is served by a crew of 17 men. This weapon also uses separate loading ammunition. The projectile weighs 95 pounds and can be fired to a maximum range of 25,700 yards. Ordinarily, this gun has a pronounced muzzle flash. For night firing, a flash reducer is wrapped around the charge to dissipate the muzzle flash in the form of smoke. The 155 gun is also mounted on a self-propelled carriage, which is a modified medium tank chassis. This weapon is known as the 155mm gun motor carriage M40. The M40 can be emplaced in firing position in about 1 minute. It requires a crew of 13 men, including 2 drivers. The ammunition is the same as that used in the towed 155mm gun. Because of its mobility, the M40 is often used for the reduction of enemy fortifications. It has a concrete piercing fuse, which enables its high explosive shell to penetrate up to 5 feet of reinforced concrete. The 8-inch howitzer also is normally employed as corps or army artillery. There are 4 howitzers per battery and 3 firing batteries per battalion. This weapon and the 155 gun are what is known as companion pieces. Their carriages are identical. The 8-inch howitzer weighs approximately 30,000 pounds and is generally towed by an M4 tractor. Emplacing this weapon, like the 155 gun, may take as little as 30 minutes or as much as 6 hours. It is served by a crew of 17 men. The ammunition, again, is separate loading with 2 types of propelling charge, green bag and white bag. The 8-inch howitzer is the most accurate of all field artillery weapons, with a probable error of not more than 20 yards in range and 8 yards in deflection at maximum range. It fires a 200-pound projectile to a range of 18,500 yards. Like the 155 gun, this weapon has a maximum elevation of 65 degrees and a total traverse of 60 degrees. Its high explosive shell has an effective bursting radius of about 40 yards. Because of the size of the projectile, ricochet fire from the weapon is particularly effective. The 8-inch howitzer is also mounted on a medium tank chassis. When so mounted, it is known as the 8-inch howitzer motor carriage M43 and is the companion piece of the self-propelled 155mm gun. This weapon requires a 15-man crew, including 2 drivers, and it can be emplaced in about 1 minute. It fires the same ammunition as the towed howitzer, and it has the same exceptional accuracy. The 240mm howitzer is normally employed as corps or army artillery. Here, there are only 2 howitzers per battery, with the usual 3 firing batteries per battalion. This weapon is towed in 2 loads by M6 38-ton tractors. Howitzer requires from 1 to 6 hours. The crew consists of 24 men, including 2 drivers. The 240 has a maximum elevation of 65 degrees and a total traverse of 45 degrees. It also uses separate loading ammunition. The projectile weighs 360 pounds and can be fired to a maximum range of 25,000 yards. The effective bursting radius of the 240 high explosive shell is approximately 50 yards. An air burst of this shell gives exceptional coverage. The 280mm gun is in the very heavy class. There are 2 guns per battery and 3 firing batteries per battalion. The 280 is used primarily as corps or army artillery. The 280 gun is suspended between 2 transporters. It weighs 85 tons and is 84 feet long. This gun can negotiate sharp turns, travel cross-country, or move on hard surface roads at a speed of 25 miles per hour. The 280 may be emplaced by a crew of 11 men in 12 minutes. This is made possible through the use of hydraulic hoists on the transporters and the winch on the front transporter. A loading davit is provided on the carriage as a simple means of placing this 600-pound projectile on the loading trough. The carriage also houses a power ramming and elevating mechanism to speed the operation, and the gun is fired by electricity produced by a magneto. Final adjustments for deflection and elevation are made using a traversing and elevating hand wheel. The ammunition for this weapon is either high explosive or atomic projectile and may be delivered on target in any kind of weather, day or night. Here we see the high explosive shell. By using a ball and socket on a turntable and a small jack, the entire carriage may be traversed 360 degrees. By employing two recoil mechanisms for stability, we may fire a high explosive projectile to a range of 31,200 yards. It will have a bursting radius of over 100 yards. The artillery, then, has weapons suitable for use against almost any target under any circumstance. And for large-scale targets, which merit the expenditure of vast quantities of ammunition, the artillery is able to mass the fire of all its weapons with terrifying effectiveness. Add to this conventional power an artillery-delivered atomic weapon, and the artillery really has a devastating punch.